Bobby Torres of Frightbox Recording here to share with you my approach to using subtractive EQ within a mix for extra clarity and punch. Now, it's very common to get caught up in adding stuff in a mix, right? You know, boosting EQ, adding tons of compression, adding limiting, saturation, delays, reverbs, stereo widening. But in reality, when you think about it, mixing really is about combining elements, making elements fit together almost like a puzzle. And in order to make things fit together nicely, sometimes you have to take away from certain tracks so there's room for everything. Okay, so without any further ado, I have a mix here. I'm gonna play it, and then I'm gonna dissect piece by piece exactly how I EQ'd each instrument to make it all fit together. So let's check this out. Okay, so that was a sample by my good friends in a band called Me With Creeps. I will leave a link in the description to their music. Okay, so I just want to mention right off the bat that the mix you just heard did not have a single EQ boost anywhere. I did not boost a single frequency throughout the duration of that entire mix. None of the tracks have any EQ boosting going on. Now, I just want to say this. I'm not saying that EQ boosting is not proper or it's wrong in any way. Now, boosting your EQ is kind of tempting. Like, let's say you have a kick drum sound that's very dark. A lot of people will tend to just boost the top end on the kick. And that makes sense, right? If it's dark, you know, add some high end just to brighten it up, right? But the truth is, a lot of the time, it really comes down to just making room in the mid-range to help clear out that boxy area of the mid-range, and also just getting rid of excess low frequency information that you just don't need. And I found that an awesome byproduct of using subtractive EQ is that your tracks will tend to sound more natural. So let's go through each track in the mix I just played, starting with the kick drum. So let's take a look here. I have a simple channel strip on my kick drum. Okay, so I'm pulling out a little bit of lower mids just to make the kick sound a little more bright. So again, instead of me just, grabbing my EQ and boosting top end, I found the range that was clouding up the sound and just attenuated it a little, and that did the trick. Next is my snare drum, just a simple high pass filter and a little bit of lower mids notched out. Let's take a look at my rack tom here. Yeah, a bunch of lower mids. I guess whatever tom we were using that day just had a lot of low mid buildup, so I just removed a bunch of lower mid, and again, that cleared up the sound, and also some high passing to get rid of the low end range that we didn't need. Okay, and our floor tom was very similar. It looked like I took out a little bit of 2K. Sometimes 2K can be really harsh. And I think we were using Remo pinstripes on the toms, and sometimes Remo pinstripes can be very bright and attacky. So sometimes you have to attenuate that range. And by the way, Remo pinstripes is a type of drum head, if you weren't familiar with that. Okay, our overheads. Now, I just want to mention this. Generally, I will bus my overheads to a submix and not EQ the individual channels. But in this case, there weren't a lot of cymbals, so it actually made more sense to EQ the individual channels themselves. And all I have here is some high passing. And again, it's aggressive high passing, but again, no boosting, just cutting, just high passing up until, let's see. Yeah, just a bunch of high passing up to about 800 hertz. And I'm gonna guess that my other overhead is the same. Yep, 800 hertz. Same thing with my ride cymbal. Same thing with my hi-hat. Super simple. And my room mic, yes, if you look at my room mic, there's a ton of cutting happening here. Yeah, everything below 300 hertz is high pass, and everything above 4K is low pass, and I have some lower mids pulled out. So instead of me boosting the mid-range, I just removed the frequencies that were not necessary within the room track. I got rid of all the low end and all the top end that I did not want. So super simple. And again, it makes the drums sound way more natural than if I would have gone in there and boosted a bunch of top end. And I just want to quickly mention this, that if you're using a modern recording workflow where you're recording directly into an interface with no analog equipment, meaning you're not using any outboard gear or an analog console, digital is very transparent. What you put in is what you get. It doesn't color the sound much. Let's say we were recording on analog equipment with a tape machine, a desk, and a bunch of outboard gear. The tape machine colors the sound, softens the transients, so does the board, and so does the outboard gear. If you were mixing in an analog environment, you can get away with boosting a lot of top end because sometimes it's needed because the sounds end up being very dark and transients are tamed. But when you're recording digitally, a lot of that harsh high end is present, so keep that in mind. And most of us these days are utilizing a modern digital workflow where it's very transparent, just like this production. So keep that in mind. That's why, in my opinion, when you're recording in a modern digital environment, with just an interface and plugins, it's important to get used to using Subtractive EQ because it really does help blend your tracks together in a natural way. That's not to say that Subtractive EQ is not important in an analog workflow, but again, you could get away with way more boosting, in my opinion, in an analog workflow, which is becoming less and less common these days. But anyway, I digress. My bass track here has nothing on the tracks at all, but that's because it's being bussed to a submix, which we will get to down the road. And the same for my rhythm guitars. My 5150 on the left, my DI, which is not being used in the mix at all, my 5150 on the right, my DI, which is not being used in the mix at all, and my lead guitar tracks right here. Let's look at the EQ on my lead guitar tracks. Yes. Wow. And these are not leads like a lead guitar solo. These are just leads that are happening in the background of the chorus, and I was not shy with getting rid of frequencies here. Everything below 360 hertz is high pass, then everything above 4K is high pass, and I have some notching out around 2K and around 700 hertz. So yes, tons of stuff being, again, because the sound didn't need it. That's all that was required from that source sound for the mix. The mix was already bright enough, was already low endy enough. And in the chorus, I just wanted only the mid-range from the lead guitar tracks. So from there, we have my vocal tracks. Let's see here. So my female vocal tracks, the ones you just heard, the clean vocals, just a high pass going on up until 100 hertz. A little bit of low shelf, just reducing the frequencies below 300 hertz, and a little bit of mid-range removed. That's it, no top end boosted here. And I have a feeling the EQs on the rest of my vocals are gonna look very similar. Let's check it out. The double track, same thing. The other female vocal track, same thing. Okay, and the lo-fi female vocal track has some top end roll off. So everything above 8K is removed and everything below around 250 hertz is removed. Just to give it that telephony kind of like lo-fi effect in the background. And from there we have the screaming vocal tracks. Very similar to the female vocals, except not as much low end removed because he had a deeper voice and I wanted to kind of retain that low end character of his screams. So yeah, that's the main vocal track. Second vocal track, same thing. Double, same thing. Vocal double is the same thing. And then the chorus double vocal is the same EQ. So all of my scream tracks have the exact same EQ applied to them. So from there, we have two more tracks in the mix, two synth tracks. And again, not shy with the high passing and low passing. I guess I only wanted, when I did this mix, I mixed this a little while ago, but I guess I only wanted the mid-range. And in this case, it looks like the upper mids with some of the boxiness removed. Yeah, and the filtering is even more extreme on the chorus synth. And from there, my bass guitar EQ, that's on the submix, very simple. Everything below 60 hertz is rolled off and everything above 6K is rolled off with some lower mids removed. And that's it, nothing boosted. Okay, and here's my rhythm guitar EQ. Looks like I have everything rolled off below 80 hertz, everything above 12K, and some simple notching happening in the lower mids and the upper mids. And that's it. Here's my drum bus. I have no EQ on my drum bus at all. Okay, and I have no EQ on my parallel drum chain at all. And from there, I have my 4 simple send effects. I have some EQ on my reverb. Let's check that out. Yep, just a low pass happening at 10K. And on my delay, a low pass happening at around 5K. No low passing going on. Actually, that is a lie. On my mono delay, I have some low passing happening at around 7K, but within the delay plugin itself. So if you look here, I have some filtering happening in the delay, in the repeats. So the repeats are all being filtered at around 7K. But again, it's within the delay plugin itself. And my slap echo, yeah, heavy on the low passing. Everything above 3K is gone because I do not want that slap sounding splashy. I have the slap effect mainly on the vocals. I want it to be very subtle. And when you remove the top end, it just ends up warming up your effect and it makes it blend into your mix almost to where you don't even consciously hear it. It's there to add space to the vocal, but it doesn't sound like a cheesy 80s effect or anything like that. It's just there to add width in a natural and pleasing way. And that's it for EQs in my entire mix. Again, this is a prime example where I did not have to boost a single frequency within the entire mix. Again, I'm not saying that boosting is not correct or it's against the rules or anything like that. It's just that in our modern digital workflows, A lot of times the source sounds are pretty much bright enough, and if they do end up sounding cloudy, it's probably just a buildup of lower mids or low end that's making the sound dark. So again, before you reach for EQ and boost the living crap out of top end, experiment with removing a little bit of lower mids and low end. And a lot of times you'll end up with the clarity that you're looking for. Okay, now that you know all the EQ curves that are happening within the mix, let's listen to the intro of the song again and listen closely. Let's check it out. Okay, if you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon in order to be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. You can both like and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Links are in the description below. And don't forget to download my quick EQ guide that contains all of my EQ settings that I always return to when starting a mix. I have a link below in the video's description. Until next time, happy mixing.